Hello, everybody, and welcome to, you know what it is, Testy Tuesday. Get ready to take a test. Hey, isn't that what we're telling all our kids right now? Come on, it's finals time. Let's get those things done. And maybe some of your kids are already finished with school, but a lot of them are finishing up this month. So, I am going to give you a test on our Old Testament lesson for this coming Sunday, Isaiah 65, the first 9 verses. So do not open your books. This is not an open book test. Keep them shut. I want you to tell me what the prophet Isaiah was telling the people that they were doing that was so wrong, that just had God upset, and he's going to meet some punishment on them. Are you ready? Number 1, the people were making sacrifices out in these gardens that they had created, but the sacrifices were to not Yahweh, but to other gods. Number 2, the people would sit in tombs at night for their worship services, and they would sit in these tombs in the dark, in secret places all night long. Number 3, the people would have pig roasts, and then they would sit around and eat the pork. I wonder if they used barbecue sauce on it too. I don't know. But that was forbidden by Jewish law. And number 4, they would feast on some really good, yummy, scrumptious soups that they had made. But they had made it with all these forbidden foods. Oh, there goes clam chowder and shrimp bisque, right? Can't do it. Lobster bisque. Out the window. Okay, so what were they doing that was so bad? Were they sacrificing out in the gardens to other gods, sitting in tombs all night in the dark, worshiping, having pig roast and then eating the pig, or consuming all these beautiful soups that they were making, but with forbidden foods? Pretty tough one, isn't it? Well, here's what they were doing wrong. All of the above. Yeah, they were doing all those things wrong. Now, okay, let's get back to Isaiah 65. Let's remember that there are at least three different prophets that went by the name Isaiah that we can identify. And we know that there's at least 3 because there are 3 different time periods. There's the Isaiah who was prophesying to the people as they were about to be carried off into captivity, into Babylon, and was telling them, hey, there's still time, you can make it too late. Then there's the one who prophesied to them while they were in captivity and promised them that God would not abandon them, and even though they were going through this difficult time of punishment, they would return. And the third one was, okay, now we're back, and yeah, it's not perfect, it doesn't look like what it did way back when, before the exile, but don't worry, God is going to be with you. This chapter 65 is part of that latter group of chapters that we have from 3rd Isaiah. All right? Now, it starts out rather interesting. This is now God speaking through the prophet. I was ready to be sought out by those who didn't ask, to be found by those who didn't seek me. I said, here I am, here I am. Game of hide and seek, like, find me, I'm right here. But God was totally ignored. And the people, they're asking in the chapter just before this, why are we still being punished? God, do you not care about us? What did we do wrong now? Well, what you did wrong was you didn't seek God's face. You basically have abandoned God. And how have you abandoned him? By doing all those things we just had in our Testy Tuesday test. The sacrifices out in the gardens, out under the stars, in the middle of the sunlight, where it didn't matter the time of day. There were sacrifices being made to false gods. But you know what? Those sacrifices also included orgies. I mean, it was not a good thing. It was not a good thing. But sitting in the tombs, that was forbidden. That made you unclean. If you're around dead bodies, you weren't allowed to go and worship for a while until you were pronounced clean by the temple priests or by the Levites. They could do that too. But hey, otherwise, hey, it's off limits. You can't do that. Besides, what are you doing talking to the dead? I mean, we do that, for our loved ones. We'll go to a graveside and speak. Not the same deal. No, they're trying to conjure them up. How about having the pig roast? Hey, we all enjoy a good pig roast. But remember, back then, pigs were forbidden food. Can't have it. I don't care if you slather all the barbecue sauce on there and try to hide what you're eating. No. Can't do it. And the other thing, making delicious soups that I enjoy clam chowder on Fridays. Oh, I can go for it. New England clam chowder, that's my favorite. But there's a whole list of forbidden foods in Leviticus. Not supposed to eat anything made with them. All right, so what's going on is, as time has gone on, apparently there are people who still consider themselves Yahweh worshipers, Yahweh followers, who have fallen into some of these other religious practices. And it's not a very, very good thing. And look at what they even say a little bit further down. You see in verse 5, this is what they yell out to you and to me. Keep to yourself. Don't come near me. I am too holy for you. Oh, so now you're a bunch of holier than thous? Yep, evidently you had that going on. You know what? These are people within the camp of Yahweh, so to speak, who worship Yahweh, but they do it with unclean practices, not acceptable practices. So you can see that there's a religious divide going on right amongst the people. But God pronounces his judgment. We have that in the latter part of the reading, that he will visit these people for their iniquities, meaning he's going to punish them. They're going to get punished. But there's a word of hope that comes at the very end. Thus says the Lord, as the wine is found in the cluster, and they say, don't destroy it, for there's a blessing in it, I will do for my servant's sake and not destroy them all. So there's going to be the punishment, but if you're comparing the people of Israel to that cluster of grapes that's got to go into the wine vat, yeah, there's some bad grapes in there. God's going to take care of them. He's going to weed them out, and he will preserve the rest. There will be a remnant, as he says here, that will be preserved because he's a loving God. He's a gracious God. But for those who continue on their wrong and bad ways, well, they're doing it to themselves. They've brought their own judgment upon their heads. Not so much God just giving it to them, they're giving it to themselves. All right, and we'll see that continue through the other chapters of Isaiah, but there's lots of promise in these final chapters here. Words of hope, because even if you read a little bit further in chapter 65, you see a lot of that talk about God's love and God's holy mountain. And how about this? You will recognize this coming from the very, very end. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together. The lion shall eat straw like the ox. But the serpent, its food shall be dust. They shall not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, says the Lord. God does love us, and God does restore us and redeem us. That is the promise that does come through 3rd Isaiah. God's blessings be with you on this Testy Tuesday.